Yo guys, what is up? Max in our first Descendant video, and today we are going over my initial impressions of Season 3. I was given early access thanks to the devs, and I've now sunk in maybe 8 to 10 hours into the season, so this is like very initial impressions, first thoughts, but I did kind of just want to talk about it because this is a very big season for them, and there's some good and there's some bad, and I want to break down what you need to know. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. This is also going to be a bit of like a overview video of like what's actually available in Season 3, at least at the start, because it is going to have like continuous content releases every month. So I hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's do this. So we're just going to kind of go through the new stuff and talk about, you know, like if I think it's good, bad, or what would I would change or improve type deal. So to start us off, Nell, I think Nell is pretty sick. I don't think she is like quite S tier in that like she is like completely broken. I think she's very strong, and the niche that she fills, she does very well, which I would consider to be a like a high DPS mobber. She doesn't have the like craziest AoE clear like you would have on an Inez or like a Freyna, but she hits really hard. She can achieve hundreds of millions of DPS on mainly her skill ability build. I still don't love her gun ability build. It just feels a little bit clunky to me, and I think it needs a bit of a buff, to be honest with you, but maybe there's something I'm missing. Next thing to mention is the new weapons, the Eraser and the Exterminator. I just think these things are kind of eh. Like, the Exterminator is good at taking out the like ships and the pods, and the Eraser, I just don't really see myself ever using, but I don't really use any scout rifle in the game, and I don't think the Eraser is going to be changing that. I still need to see if this has any sort of like hidden interaction or mechanics with Wall Crasher, because, you know, obviously if it's like good against Wall Crasher, then it would be useful. But weapons, I think, are all right. One thing I don't know is how we're going to end up farming these things, and how, like, which one's going to be the Battle Pass weapon, because they were just kind of given to us for this preview. The next thing to mention are the new external components. We've got the, like, Ricochet component set, which is new. This component set is pretty sweet, very cool. Basically, it gives you weak point damage and ricochets. Or like dealing AoE damage of your firearms, which are pretty cool. The big downside to these is that they roll like triple shields. So if you're going to use it, you're going to be getting extra squishy. And the other set, which I really like, is the Dimension Destroyer set. This basically, every time you cast an ability, you call down Wall Crasher meteors on enemies. Where is my bottom piece? They're the Dimension Destroyers. So 2-piece bonus gets you no effect, but the 4-piece bonus gives you Breach Formation, which, while Breach Formation is at 10 stacks, is active. You gain Crash. Crash causes Wall Crasher's Pandemonium Flotation device to crash down on a random target for 5-second duration, dealing 70% of your skill power as additional damage. This does inherent like your crit chance. So if you're a crit build, these things will crit. I've seen them hitting for like 160 to like 180,000 damage on just like a normal ability damage build, and they're constantly coming down because they're generating passively, and you get an additional stack every time you use a skill. So if you're using a character that spams skills like Nell, you're getting these meteors all the time, and they hit pretty hard. They add a little bit of extra passive damage. Next thing to mention is the trigger module slots. Now, these are, in my opinion, where you're going to spend the majority of your time in Season 3 focusing on. This is like where the like bulk of your grind is going to be focused on, is unlocking and building around these trigger modules. Now, in order to unlock one, you need to make sure that your Descendant is 10 out of 10 catalyzed and has an energy activator and is Arca Tuning 40. So like your character needs to be fully built, which is interesting. I don't love the 10 catalysts on your characters, because I've got full builds on like Freyna, for example, that only need 9 catalysts, and she's fully built. So not a huge fan of that personally, but it's like not the worst thing in the world. And then you also get these refined Axiom crystals, which you can like craft and build. I'm not sure how difficult they are going to be to build because basically they just gave us 100 of them. But there's a ton of random resources out in the Axion field, so I'm imagining that those random resources are going to be to building these. Now, once you have the resources and have one of these, you actually come to the prime hands, where you unlock your arcade trigger. It's going to cost 300 Kuiper and one of these Axiom crystals. Oh, it looks like each one of these Axiom crystals costs 100 of each of these resources. So these resources you're going to be farming out in the field. And then once you do that, you unlock your like arcade trigger, and that unlocks this whole new slot. Now, I only have one of these right now. This is full arcade jacket. When reloading, consume 20 MP and grant the next magazine arcade coating. Arcade coating has a chance to deal skill damage to nearby enemies near the target hit by your firearm until the magazine runs out. And this thing random rolls. So I got a blue roll on trigger rate. I could have gotten a 30% chance to trigger, and it rolls in a percentage of your damage. So both of these rolls are random, but it also seems random to be the module that you get. So you have a 25% chance to get one of these to drop from one of your missions. There's 9 of these arcade trigger modules, and they're random which one you get. So you've got like I think it's a 20% or 25% chance to get a box to open from these missions, and then you've got a 1 in 9 chance to get the one that you want. And then the one that you want has a massive variance in what it can roll. For example, this can roll from 3 seconds to 7-second cooldown. It could go from defense decrease amount from 5 to 25%. They're pretty massive. This meteor one, you could either have a 5-second cooldown or a 1-second cooldown on. Some of them have like more random rolls. Some of them have less. But I do think that these are going to be very impactful for your build, but I also think they're going to be a massive grind. And that's why I say it's going to be the majority of what your time is spent doing is when you're out in the Axion fields, you're going to be grinding for these. I think they're pretty cool. I think it's awesome that we're getting an additional thing to our builds and another thing to build around. So from what I've messed around with them, hopefully they're going to be good. Hopefully their build like impactful and defining, and hopefully they open up some build diversity, and hopefully they're worth the grind. That is not something I can speak on yet. I can't say if they are good enough to be like worth the grind, but from like reading through the descriptions, they look pretty interesting. As the one that I just showed you, like you literally can get like AoE damage on all of your shots, which is pretty nuts. I'd imagine that's pretty gross on Serena. Next, we get to Axion Plains, where we have the vehicles. They gave me 3 of the vehicles maxed out, so I can kind of like give you an idea of what they do, so if you want to know which ones you want to farm for. So the red one, which is called the Vortex, I believe is the fastest of them, but has also the worst turning radius. As you can see, like, it takes me a while to turn around. Very, very slow turning, but it goes really, really fast. Very, 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 very speedy. I think the vehicle handling feels all right. It's nothing really to write home about. My big issue with the vehicles is the amount that they get stuck on like little bits of terrain. As you can see, like that was a decent example. Let's see if I can get stuck on that one. Nope, not quite. That. Those like little hitches, I wish didn't really happen. You do have a jump, but there's some like random things that your car just gets stuck on. Not the end of the world. The other vehicles are the Orca, which, as you can see, here we can go to some of the stats. So the Vortex has 2,000 acceleration, 2,500 max speed. The Orca has 2,300 max speed, 2,500 acceleration. So it accelerates faster, but it's slower. Max speed. And if we use the Orca, for example, you will see that all of a sudden I can like turn on a dime. So this thing turns way, way better, but it's not quite as fast. Its max speed isn't quite as fast as the other one, but I think it handles a whole lot better for turning. And then the last vehicle is the Glide, which has the slowest speed, but I think this thing can stay in the air the longest. As in, like, it Glide, I think it like has a bit more like hovering capabilities. But yeah, I do wish the vehicles felt a bit more different to use, to be honest. Like, some more variance in the vehicles, I think, personally would have been cool. Like, having a hoverboard and a hover bike and something else, and like wings or something that all of your Descendants could fly. Just something, because, you know, I think these vehicles are going to be a pretty big of a grind, and I'm not sure if I see a full reason to grind out all three of them to max them out, I guess. Or that they feel like different enough to validate having to grind all three totally out. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion on them. Now, the Axion Plains themselves have quite a bit going on for them. I do want to note that the enemy density in this area when you are doing missions is kind of insane. You are going to need to bring your absolute best mobbing characters. I mainly used Inez. I found like even Freyna felt a bit slow running through the like mobbing sections. But in these, we've got the like battlefield missions. These, I'm going to be honest, don't fully understand the difference between these like ones with the teeth and these like normal ones. But as you can see, they have blueprint loot and trigger module loot. Blueprint loot can drop you Nell and Eraser and Orca and Vortex, all that stuff. The trigger modules is the trigger modules, each with like an 11% chance to drop. And you've got a bunch of different missions that all give like blueprint and trigger modules. So I feel like you're probably just going to be doing the one that is the fastest. You know what I mean? As in like whatever one's going to be the most efficient, which I think this first crater one seems pretty efficient to me. You're just going to do that. And like, I don't really see a full reason to do all the other ones, if that makes sense. Because I think they just all drop the same stuff. You know what I mean? I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity where, like, maybe you'd have this mission dropping the, like, hull of one of the racing things, and then the next one would drop the engine, and then the next thing would drop the steering wheel. Like, that kind of thing where you'd have multiple things to grind. I think they're just trying to inject multiple layers of RNG, because if you just grinded one mission to get the thing that you wanted, you'd be done, and then you move on to the next thing. With this, there's just, like, everything is a 6.25% chance to get the thing that you want. So I think they're just adding in artificial grind just to have artificial grind here. And I think that's kind of bad, to be honest with you. I know they want this season to last, but I think that's a kind of dumb way of doing it. And as you can see here, we've also got Wall Crasher, who's spawning in. Wall Crasher spawns like every 50 minutes, I believe. The fight is really, really awesome. Let's see if we can get it over there. This is how the Wall Crasher fight works. You basically like come up to this door in the arena, and then it'll start matchmaking you. And then obviously there's not that many people playing right now because the season hasn't started yet. But you'd get put into a group, and then you've got like, I think 20 minutes to kill Wall Crasher. And I do want to say that like I thought he felt pretty weak in the little demo. That is not the same amount of HP as he's had. I have heard about people soloing him, so it is possible. I've only attempted it a few tries, so I haven't figured out exactly what strategy I want to be using. But I'll just show you a bit of gameplay as a solo Serena with the Smithereens and a skill build. In terms of the like rest of the content in Axion Plains, I think it's kind of all right, to be honest with you. Like the enemy density is good, but it's just kind of all very samey feeling, in my opinion, with like one or two missions that kind of stand out. But I didn't see like for example, I think I've run all of these missions now, but I couldn't tell you which missions what, because they all just involve killing a bunch of enemies in an open area and then moving and then killing a bunch of enemies in an open area. Not that like TFD has missions that do other things, but it would have been cool to see a bit more like variety. Just because, like, for example, I think everything feels very samey. I had the same complaint about Sigma Sector. Sigma Sector's got two different missions, and those two different missions feel like you're doing the exact same mission. There's no variance in them, really. So it's like, why do they even exist? I still think this is something that TFD struggles with, is gameplay variety, and I don't think they nailed that here, to be honest with you. One of the coolest parts about the Axion Plains, to be honest, though, is the free-roaming Colossuses. I don't have any on my map right now, but hopefully I'll have some gameplay playing. The Colossuses will just show up, and you can go fight them out in the open world. They have a lot more HP, from what I can tell, that they would like normally have, because they're scaled to be fought by multiple players. But we finally have open world Colossuses, and they're pretty freaking cool. So that kind of covers it for all of the content. Now, I think there's a lot of cool stuff here. Nell is awesome. Really enjoy her. Wall Crasher's awesome. The open world Colossuses are awesome. The trigger modules are awesome. However, I do have one massive concern for the season that, you know, if you were to watch any part of this video, this would be the part in terms of like my opinions and thoughts. And that is that every objective has the same loot pool, besides like, you know, some of the races and stuff like that. But all of the like main missions out in Axion Plains drop the same stuff at the same drop rate. So what I think is going to happen is, even if all of the missions felt very varied and there's a bunch of different things to do in all the different missions, the community is just going to gravitate towards blasting whatever is going to have the fastest completion time, because that's going to give you the best drops per hour, especially when we're working with so many layers of RNG. And my concern with that is that, you know, people aren't going to experience all of the content, and people are going to burn out faster because they're just grinding one objective. So if the devs are to listen or watch this video, my big recommendation to figure out maybe right after the season launches or even before is to move the loot pools around, so that maybe there's one mission that drops Nell parts that you could grind for Nell. Maybe there's one mission that drops like the Vortex, another mission that drops the other parts. Just something so that you're going to be experiencing all the content and grinding all of the different missions. And then maybe you could put trigger modules, you know, evenly spaced, or 3 trigger modules on one mission, 3 trigger modules on another. Just something so that we are playing all of the content that you're putting out, because the format that you're putting the content out in currently, people are just going to play one of the missions and then kind of, you know, get everything from a single thing. And I think that's a huge waste of the potential of Axion Plains, because there is like cool stuff to experience. There is cool stuff to grind, but people, you know, will always gravitate to whatever gets them the stuff that they want the fastest. So yeah, hopefully that is something that they can remedy if they want to remedy it. I think it'd be cool to space out the loot pool, because it'll make it easier to farm for what you want, but it'll also make it, you know, more entertaining, having to do a bunch of different objectives and a bunch of different quests rather than just grinding the same one. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Peace.